Hey, good morning, everybody. Thanks for coming to the next lab today, University of Cincinnati. Thanks for sticking around. A lot of people have left town already, which has made parking easier, so I'm thankful for that. Probably don't have to wait in line as long at places, but it's good to see you all still here, and appreciate that you spent some time with us this morning to talk about Gen Z's take on AI in society. So quick way of introduction here. My name's Aaron Bradley. I lead a program at the University of Cincinnati called the Next Innovation Scholars Program, which is focused on transdisciplinary innovation. We do a lot of projects with corporate partners, and then we also do, through another offshoot of that program, we have something called the Foresight Lab, which is one of the only undergraduate strategic foresight programs in the country. It's a practice we're still building, so if you have a chance, either throughout this week, if you've already done one, or if you haven't today, can stop by our table over there and do one of our Futures Mad Libs exercises that we use to kind of probe into what people are thinking about the future and what disruptions might be coming. And you can also answer our question of the day and help contribute to our research. So part of what this opportunity does for us when we do this kind of research about bigger picture things, macro trends in society, things that we think are potentially going to shape what the future looks like, we get to probe into those, and we do a lot of research using methodologies that allow us to kind of speculate without making predictions. So we always tell everybody that strategic foresight is not about predicting the future. It's about exploring multiple possible futures so that we can be prepared for any of them. And so that's what we do in our practice. And part of what's unique about that is that we are doing it with undergraduate students who are squarely in that Gen Z demographic. And because these are students who are leaders and who we know are going to be shaping what our future looks like, we feel like our practice is unique because we're working directly with the very people that will be shaping what the next 5, 10, 20 years looks like. So what we're going to talk about today is, it genuinely is an unfiltered conversation. We've purposely not scripted or practiced exactly what everybody's going to say. My job here is to kind of facilitate and have some of our students share what they're thinking about when it comes to AI in society. And the genesis of this conversation, why we thought this would be a good topic for this audience specifically, is I'm sure that you're hearing a lot about AI this week. And even if not this week, everywhere in anything you read or see. And there's probably some assumptions that all of us have about what Gen Z thinks about AI. And in fact, I've been reading a lot about this. Part of why this is one of our drivers we're studying more about is that there's a lot of assumptions that older generations have that Gen Z is just going to come in and do our AI stuff for us. And it reminds me of about 15 years ago when there was this trend of, well, the millennials will just come in and do our social media stuff for us, right? It was literally a phrase that I heard when working with college students. So what we think is particularly interesting is that there's a lot of data suggest that Gen Z is not quite as excited about coming in and just doing your AI stuff when they get a job, right? So there's a tech capability and savvy that's there, but some of the perceptions and thoughts about how this might affect society and Gen Z's future are maybe different than what some assumptions might be. So with that in mind, I want to introduce our students today. I'll let them actually introduce themselves. So all of these students are undergraduates at the University of Cincinnati in the Next Innovation Scholars Program. I'll let you do a quick intro, do your name, maybe what year you are, what you're studying, and then we'll let the rest of it unfold after that. So, Arya?
Yeah. Hey everyone, I'm Arya, and I'm a computer science major at the University of Cincinnati. I graduate in 2027 with a Master's of AI and a Bachelor's in Computer Science.
Hello everyone, good morning. My name is Miami Celentana. I am a 4th year in industrial design, and I'm also graduating in 2027.
Hello everyone, my name is Grant Kilgard. I am an industrial design major at UC's DAP program with a minor in fine art, and I graduate in 2 months.
Yeah, right on. Thanks, guys. So we'll make sure that we have some time for audience Q&A today as well, but we'll spend a little time just kind of getting some of your thoughts, and we'll take the conversation from there. So first thing that I would love to have everyone hear from all of you is just at a top line, unfiltered, what are you thinking about when it comes to AI? And I'm not necessarily so much the tech or how to use the tech, but how you're seeing it shape your life and your world today, and then what you kind of speculate that could lead to. Could be positive or negative, but just what are those thoughts that are on your mind?
Yeah, kicking us off, I feel like I like the tech, but it burns me out when I use it. I like the art of solving problems and identifying problem areas. AI can't really do that yet. I don't care what tools I use to solve said problems, so I'm for AI person in that regard, but using AI burns me out a lot. It's kind of unrewarding doing work using AI as an aid. And on on a bigger picture scale, I feel like AI is the worst it will ever be. So it's gonna only get better from here. And I feel like as a society, policy-wise, we might not be ready for the automation, for the dimension of automation that's coming in the future.
Let's pull a little bit on some of these threads here, because I've heard you describe yourself sometimes when introducing yourselves. I'm a computer science student who hates technology.
Yeah.
Can you say more about that?
Yeah, I say that because, again, I picked computer science because it was a tool for me to solve problems, not because I like code or I'm attached to a programming language or computers in general. It's just a Swiss Army knife of solving problems. That's why I picked computer science. And it's been like that since the start. I didn't really like or enjoy learning different languages in CS or learning about the architecture of how resistors and like cache systems work. So, yeah.
Yeah. So then how does AI kind of being thrust onto the scene shape or change that mentality, or has it?
It hasn't. It's just like now I get to like just sit down and actually be creative, maybe more than I would usually. So I can like offload the stuff I don't want to AI.
Okay.
But also that takes away the work a little bit because I'm not getting the background research on it. So.
Okay. All right, we'll probably pull on that a little bit more, but how about from our design side of the table here?
Yeah, I have a love-hate relationship with AI. I think it provides me a lot of agency and it allows me to ideate on things, but I also have many friends that are super anti-AI. They take the stance of it's super environmentally unfriendly, and because of that, they just write off AI as a whole and they simply don't approach it. And what I've experienced with those friendships is that I see all of the opportunities and more optimistic about how AI can help shape industries and allow people to expand outside of their dedicated skill set. But in those relationships, I'm not able to engage with those friends in the same way, and I see them kind of getting left behind. So I'm seeing AI as more of like a division of culture for people that are willing to engage with it and willing to adapt to this new technology, and seeing that there's some people that are simply just not willing to engage.
Okay, so that's interesting, and it's actually first time I've heard anybody talk about it in that way.
Yeah.
Just thinking about what a somewhat polarized time we live in, is it fair to say that you're actually seeing this become yet another thing that people are picking a side on in your generation?
Yes, I would say that because I'm in the group that is interested in it, I opt into more discussions and listen to more things that are pro-AI. So I'm already segmenting myself towards that direction. So I know a little bit less about the people that are like very anti-AI, but there are so many people in my life that are wanting to go back to like physical media and wanting to write newspapers or print something and almost completely write AI off, and I think that it is going to cause a divide in just how people interact with each other, and it might become pretty divisive.
Well, you even mentioned that it's changing friendships for you.
Yeah, no,
Can you
totally.
say more about that? Yeah.
I think it comes down to like the discussions. Like I almost am guarded when talking about it, in that I discuss the potential that AI has to elevate somebody's work, somebody's ability to think about themselves. They have this personal agent that gives them more information than they might be able to do just from a Google search. And because they write it off, there's they just don't simply want to talk about it. And I worry that they are going to not be able to enhance their work and skill set because they're going to not use AI because of the worry about the environment. And I just see that we're going to continue to diverge on this road, and I don't know if we're going to continue to have stronger friendships because of it.
Yeah, so some people are potentially going to get left behind, and some of the, we're all moving this way, you all have decided to go this way, and maybe we just have less in common, less to talk about.
Yeah, we simply just don't talk about it at this point.
Grant, you're in the same major, in
Yeah.
the same study area. Are you seeing the same thing? You have a different take?
Yeah, definitely. I'm kind of seeing two worlds with this and further division among my colleagues in fine art. I take fine art classes along with my design classes. And in my product design courses, we actually have an automotive design class, which an assignment is actually to utilize the AI program web app called Viscom. Essentially, it's a sketch to render, or even like a sketch to animated video pipeline. So that's been super interesting to see that, and then to see the contrast of my fine art colleagues completely dismissing AI for the most part, I would say. But overall, I would consider myself like an AI centrist, or like an AI, I'm AI curious, I like to kind of say. I like to dive into all the tools available and at least try it out, because there's some pretty cool stuff out there. But I kind of want to echo Arya's point about policy not being able to keep up. I think when I do Viscom or like a similar like Canvas infinite zoom AI platform, and I use it for about an hour, and I zoom out on this infinite scrollable canvas, and I see hundreds of images that I've generated, I almost get like a wave of guilt. And I think that unless we invest into clean energy, better ways to source training data, that AI will sort of just have this stink about it unless that's fixed. Yeah.
And I think that's something that's a known issue depending on how far a person's willing to look under the hood. Would you say that that idea of the environmental impact of AI is very much on the surface for Gen Z? Because I think, my generation and a lot of those surrounding it probably, depending on how deep you are into the weeds of it, that it's not great, and there is a certain element of disappointment, frustration, concern about where that might go, but it's not necessarily altering behaviors. It's more of just an awareness, or in some cases, a complete lack of awareness. Right. Is that on the surface for your generation?
I feel like it's almost like a transition from the worry that people have about the environmental impacts of fast fashion. Like, everybody has learned that fast fashion really creates a horrible impact on the environment. So a lot of people are shifting to thrifting. There's so many people with thrifted items. We were talking about this yesterday. A lot of our outfits are fully thrifted just because there's a fun of it, but also that environmental impact. And I think this is similar. The awareness that was brought about that situation is directly applied here. People are just seeing that as, we already care about the environment, and we know that there are systems that are challenging the way that people are protecting the environment, and I think that AI is just the new version of this, so that is kind of driving some of this anti-AI.
Right, and yeah, to build on to that, and to even speak to the fine art colleagues a bit more, like, Gen Z feels like they have no control as far as climate issues go. Quite literally, the only thing we can do is not use or not buy into something, and until we're old enough or experienced enough to reach those sort of positions of power, we kind of feel helpless, or I do at least, and the only real thing that I can contribute to is to use tools wisely or not use something at all if it's proven to be harmful. So,
Arya, is that in the circles that you're in the computer science world, is that on the surface there too, or is this uniquely a design community kind of thing?
I'd say it's like not even related to a major. I think it's just a balance of agency and competition, where you want to have agency and not use these tools and support them, but my competitor is using them, and I'm gonna be left behind. If he has if he has a team of 20 AI agents working for him and I don't, I'm gonna be left behind, and my resume is gonna be like 40 times worse than his. And at the end of the day, the employers look at the resume, not at my core ethics behind AI and stuff like that,
Well, it's
and
almost,
I lose agency because of the competitive landscape of today's world, where like change is so fast. You need to be competitive, and to be competitive, you need to use everything you can to your advantage, and that includes using 20 agents running while you're sleeping, doing tasks.
Talk about environmental impact.
It's almost like the typewriter versus the first computer. You know, there was fear factor, or painters and like the first camera. Hearsay, blasphemy, all of those things, and now it's the zeitgeist. It's what we use every single day in our pockets. So, I don't know.
Sorry, I'm curious. So you talked about the 20 agents thing. From your perspective in CS, are you seeing that people just want to opt into using a bunch of agents because they think they should, or they're using it strategically and they're like, I need to use 20 because I need 20, or they're just seeing other people using it and they think that they have to catch up?
Well, 20 is like an example,
Well,
but it's
yes,
like,
of course.
it's a spectrum, right? Some people really want to learn like how to use tools optimally. Some people just like throw like money at the problem. Like, I don't care, I'll just throw more credits at the problem, right? So I fall in the middle where it depends on how much time I have. I'll optimize my tools if I need to. If not, I'll just throw credits at it. So it really depends on the person and on the timeline of the task. So, yeah.
So I'm going to build on this a little bit, but take us in a bit of a different direction. So one of the things that I have seen, and then also is translated now into one of our drivers, is this idea of, basically we called it just chat it, right? And it's like, I'm noticing when working with your generation, a default setting for most, not all, but for most students, of the first line before attempting to solve a problem or even kind of cognitively process what might be going on somewhere is, we'll just chat it first. And sometimes that's where it ends. Thankfully, in our program, we've sort of filtered out and screened for people that don't just chat it and then leave it there, right? But it still happens sometimes. And then the downstream effect of that I'm seeing is sometimes this lack of cognitive processing, not just on that one instance of a thing, but basically like a decline in needing to think deeper, explore, things like that. Would like to just hear, if possible, each of your unfiltered response to how often do you just chat it versus stop and think? And then if I want you to answer honestly for yourself, but also then if you could help us all say, okay, now this is what I do, but here's what I see my peers doing too.
I can go. With the just chatted driver in particular, it's like I lose respect for someone I suspect using AI. And like, I've cut off maybe 4 friends so far this year, because it's just like any teamwork or any collaborative activity I do with them, their first instinct is to send me a summary of a Gemini summary. And I'm like I could have just done that myself. Why am I talking to you? And it's the same thing in like co-op. My boss in co-op would give me this like 40-page AI generated document instead of actually sitting down and talking to me, right? So it's just, some things need to stay human, some things need to like be offloaded, and it's just like, you need to figure out what needs to be offloaded to maintain connections and your role in society.
So you're not just chatting it,
Yeah.
which is refreshing.
Mostly, yeah.
Okay.
Again, it depends on situations. There's times where you need to just chat it because you have 30 seconds left to do a task or something like that. And like, that's an extreme example, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah. How about you two?
Yeah, I am really protective of my critical thinking skills, and I really worry that if I start to just chat it, I really don't do that now. I'm going to relieve myself of like the necessary friction to continue to have a thoughtful experience with my own brain, and be able to keep my authenticity of my own thoughts. So I'm not really a proponent of doing the just chat it at all. I prefer to think about something first and then maybe come to the chatbot with a portion of something that I'm thinking about. I never give it like the full picture because I don't want to relieve myself of the hard work that is required to consider something. And also I will ask multiple times in order to get different perspectives. So like if I'm asking a question, I will then ask the question in a different way, so that way I can see the multiple perspectives, and not keep it from just being streamlined to this is the end all be all of how I should be thinking about something. But I also have a friend who is basically using ChatGPT 24/7, has constant chats open, literally uses it as Google. If there's like an actor that she couldn't remember the name of, she is looking it up on ChatGPT. And she pays for a subscription because of it and swears by it for her classwork. And I think it really optimizes her workload. She's a very busy person, very involved in all these clubs, but I do worry that in like the long term, there's going to be that's going to be a differentiator for people in the workforce, people that are able to critically think and people that have just decided that I no longer want to participate in that action.
Yeah. Grant, what about you?
Okay, I have a lot of thoughts on this. So, bouncing off of Miami's point, I think like critical thinking and actually thinking for yourself, and especially writing for yourself, is now necessary more than ever. And having genuine original thoughts and having nuance and being wrong is okay and is human. There's this meme out there where this professor got 12 emails from students that were all written by AI. They all started with, "I'm sincerely sorry," or "I'm deeply sorry I missed class," or "I'm deeply sorry," and it was literally the first 3 words of these 14 emails were all the same. So that's what I've been trying to avoid this past years, to stop relying on AI completely for at least my writing and articulating myself. But I also, like I mentioned, I'm curious about AI tools, and it's helped me in non-creative ways, if that makes sense. So I don't really use it for AI rendering like the Viscom stuff anymore, but I've gained an interest in code over the past year and a half, and it's been an excellent way to learn how to code. I took like an intro to Python course where we learned how to make our own neural net and that sort of thing. And I think that it would be helpful if all of us could have this sort of context and almost baseline information of what AI does and how it works, to then be able to critique it better. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, what did you want
Yeah, I have
go
something
ahead.
to say.
Yeah.
When Grant mentioned the emails to the professors, I kind of thought about the way I write emails to my professors, and I intentionally make it like I'm talking. I don't make it formal at all. I just, while I'm thinking, I'm just typing my inner monologue and I hit send, just to make sure the professor knows it's my real thoughts in the email. And that's been a thing I've been intentionally doing for 2 years now, where all my emails are just conversations instead of, "Hey, Mr. Professor XYZ," I don't do that anymore.
Also, the death of the M dash. Talk about
God.
that.
Yeah,
That's over. Yeah. I mean, well.
Also,
that's just
extending on that, if certain grammars looked at
Oh, yeah.
that's AI generated, next, are semicolons next? Are full stops next? Are we just gonna go word soup, or what do we start removing and categorizing as AI proposition?
Use the period. He's using chat. Yeah.
I've literally put my writing, like my personal writing that I want to make more concise, I can be very wordy at times, through like a chatbot to see, and have it analyze, what are the key things that you're taking away from this essay, because I want to ensure that the key points that I want to come across are coming across. And if it's misaligned with what I think should be happening in the essay, then I'll tweak it. So I'm having it analyze what I'm writing instead of having it write for me. But what I also do is I have it analyze if it seems like it's written by AI. And a lot of the time it pulls out sentences that are very true to me and how my writing style is. And it calls out that as the AI written part of it. And it throws me off. I'm like, what am I doing wrong? This is my true voice. And I haven't really dug into it as much as I should, but I've just experienced this where I'm kind of offended. I'm taking it personally that I'm being perceived as part of the AI world just because of how I'm expressing myself.
The ultimate insult.
You
called me. What?
What
did you say to me?
I'm the average of all the data on the internet. That is not there.
Yeah, it's so good. Well, and I'd just say, as the professor that's on the receiving end of these things, thankfully, again, in the program that we lead, we've got 43 students that we're very, intimately involved in projects together and see each other often. So none of them are doing this, but when I do get communication from students outside the program, the majority of it is very clearly that exact thing that you can tell, and it's a turnoff for me reading it too, because it immediately communicates to me like, well, you didn't really bother to spend much time or thought on this. Also, you probably think you're the one original person that thought you would send this message to me, but I've seen 20 that mirror the same thing. So it does come through. So good work on not being a part of the problem there. I'm sorry that AI keeps thinking that you sound like it, but so one more question for you all, and then we'll open it up to some audience questions. Thinking about the position you're in of seeking a job soon, or already deep in the job search perhaps, when you think about AI and society and the future of your time in a career, how do you feel about this assumption that you all will just come in with all the necessary AI skills to be successful and take care of all the AI stuff for a company you might work for?
I can speak to that a little bit. I've kind of put myself in a position, like I mentioned, where I've touched almost every single AI tool that's been released, like at a wide scale. So I'm pretty familiar, and it's almost like treat it like Excel or Word, like at this point, in order to get a job, in order to put that on your resume, and to at least have that familiarity. But not super excited to, maybe use that every day in my job, but it's another tool in your toolkit if you choose so.
I have two comments about this, and the first one is related to what you're saying. I mean, you are going into this on your own and trying to learn about this. I feel like right now, as new and as non-new as it is, students like us have to take ownership of our AI learning. It's not really being taught in schools to the degree that it needs to be, and it's not being taught in a way that it feels necessary to learn these tools. It feels like you could use this if you wanted to, but it's not something that you should absolutely incorporate in order to optimize your learning or the work that you're doing. Like with the VisCom situation, I've also had a professor that wanted us to use VisCom, but told us that we should use VisCom as a baseline, and then we are supposed to be better than that. So in everything, the professors want us to be better than what the AI can do. And to that extent, you almost ask yourself, is there a point in having the AI be there if we're supposed to be better than it already? So that's my first point. Yeah. My second experience with it is that I think there is a complete opposite stance for Gen Z, where there's this fear that there aren't going to be a lot of jobs. And you're saying that there is this talk of Gen Z has to adapt to the AI and adopt it in order to enhance it. But I think there's a lot of people that are just simply worried that the juniors are going to be cut out of the equation entirely and aren't even going to have the chance to utilize those AI skills, because companies are going to start utilizing AI to the point where they only need seniors. They can cut out the junior costs and put more money into AI and just continue scaling up where they need less and less humans involved. So that's my perspective on it. I'm honestly a little more worried about how many jobs we will actually have. So
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, kind of speaking to Miami's point, at my first club, it was a startup, and I ended up automating my own role, unfortunately. They did hire me a second time, but that position wasn't ever opened after my second rotation. So there's that, where certain roles will get automated, and that's the reality. But I'm also of the viewpoint that there's a higher dimensional job or a position which will open up, similarly to when the internet or the calculator happened, where it's oh, mathematicians are going to get replaced. We just don't know yet, and that's why I feel futures work is so important, is to be on that bleeding edge of figuring out what that higher dimensional job, which we don't know what it is yet, might be. And that's what I'm waiting for in a reactive sense. And once I figure that higher dimensional job out, I'm gonna full send,
I do have a small addition to that super quick. So you mentioned you automated your own first role at that co-op, right? I was trying to think of it from the perspective of an artist or a writer, maybe a painter specifically, mentoring under like a bigger, more well-known artist, right? I don't think I could ever automate that job, and I have some optimism about the arts being safe and there being resistance there and that not ever going away. But I should mention there are some really cool artists doing very original and technical work with AI that critique AI. So like Trevor Paglen comes to mind. He's a wonderful artist, but almost using highly technical ways of using AI to make some crazy stuff that AI itself and by itself could never make. So I think the arts are safe is what I'm getting at.
Okay. All right. So we're gonna go to audience questions after you all give me your one-word answer to this. If forced to pick a side, AI good for society, bad for society? Go.
Currently bad.
I think good.
Bad.
Okay. Split pain. All right. All right. Thanks for that. I'm hoping there's some questions that the audience has for you all. So we're gonna open it up to you all. Yeah.
Okay. Just a little bit of lead in. Just a second.
I thought,
When I graduated,
no worries.
probably before most of y'all were born, electrical engineering, there was a classmate of mine, girl who was at the day of graduation wearing her robe. She was standing in line crying and saying, I feel like I'm graduating with a 3.5 in electrical engineering and I don't understand anything. And I had been in classes with her the whole time. And the way we did it at that time was professors would make their old tests available, and they would write their new tests on the basis of some variation of what the problems were. I made sure that I understood every equation and the mathematical process to go through each one because I wanted the understanding. She wanted the quick, and was just memorizing, recognizing the patterns, and doing that. I say that saying, there's always going to be some form of laziness, and there's always, so it wouldn't be too despairing of that when you encounter people that are just thinking, say, when you promote the virtue of understanding, like it says in the book of Proverbs, chapter 4, in all your wisdom get understanding. Laziness never pays off, and diligence and hard work does. Y'all will be the ones that will be the examples. You won't save everybody, but you could influence some. So I guess my question would be, in all that, how widespread do you feel like the negative aspects are? Or, the people that are, is it just a small number of people? Do you feel like it's growing? Is it out of despair? I'm going to get jobs. Why do all this work? What is your assessment?
I think it's honestly like a lack of exposure. I think the people that rely on AI to continue to lean into their laziness are really just using ChatGPT, the first line of AI. I think the people that are open to exploring the different tools, and to your point, like you have probably seen the different ways that you can utilize AI in a way that enhances your own ideas, as opposed to just doing the work for you. I think if people get more exposure to the specific tools and specific tools show up more, I think we'll head in a better trajectory. But I think right now, the common thread is that people really only know ChatGPT. They barely know Claude or Perplexity or anything else. Like they are really just talking to chat, and that is their direction. So that's my stance on it. I think there's potential for it to shift, but right now it's a lot of just continuing on that lazy track and using ChatGPT.
I have something to say for that. I feel like maturity is driven by consequence, right? And the consequence back then was like, oh, you'd fail a class or a test, but now the consequence might happen later on in life because you can use AI as a supplement. So I feel like once the lazy quote unquote crowd gets to like the age of 30, the consequence will hit. I don't think we're like cooked maybe earlier. I hope earlier, right? I don't think as a generation we're cooked. It's just that consequence threshold is gonna be slightly more delayed.
So with ChatGPT specifically, I've seen a lot of discourse around it being a yes man, or sort of just being over comforting, or, oh my gosh, that's a great idea, Arya, that sort of messaging. And it's almost like your classmate's study guide or the previous test that just says yes to your every wish and command. So you're almost, doubling down on how bad that can be if you use that as a crutch too often. Yeah. Thank you. That was a great question. Thanks.
On that vein, I have 2 kids in college and brick and mortar schools, and I'm was like shocked at how much of the learning environment is online, right? So it's almost like just going like an online school, and sort of they're just clicking through a zillion tasks to get like 80% of their grade. Yeah. So clearly, AI is being used by some or whatever to do all that, or some of it. It's more of a question for the professor. Do you see a move back to where, like the blue books, back in the day, where it's like, here's your blue book, you gotta show up, and you gotta regurgitate what's up here, because somewhat just now it's like an online format. Do you see that shift coming back to?
Yeah. I mean, we'll see how many other people are willing to adapt, but I never did a lot of tests and quizzes anyway. It was always more of a, let's do a presentation, let's do something that shows me that you can actually apply this. But even with that in mind, I switched, and there's 0 things that I assign for any evidence of learning that could be done by simply just plugging it in. Because what I found is it wasn't even just like, oh, go get the answers to the test. I would assign for students to do a reflective journal entry about this very specific thing that we had done as an experience with an external partner. That's like, there shouldn't be a place where you can just get the database for this answer. Surely this will be okay. But then I could tell that they had taken my question and used it as a prompt to then write with a few just like keywords of like, say something about these 3 or 4 things. And I didn't know that was gonna happen until I started grading en masse and realizing like, oh my gosh, like this is a strange pattern here, and then figured it out. So literally at this point, in fact, even for applications to our program, we've taken away all of the essay questions. Everything's a video response now. You have a short video prompt, you have 3 minutes or less to tell us your thoughts on this, and we've gotten better over time of refining it, because the first few were still things that you could tell, like, oh, they found a way to just write a script with ChatGPT to tell us what they thought we wanted to hear. Now we've kind of done it to where it's like, okay, this is about your personal experience and something you can apply from experience. Give us an example from your life where this has happened, and it's gotten better. But the short answer is yes, I think that educators who are desiring to really measure learning are going to adapt back to more of those kinds of things. Yeah. And I did see your hand, and then we can get yours.
So, and like others here, kids your age, first of all, you guys are super impressive. I love your minds when you share. Haven't been here for the whole session, but I have a 19-year-old who's studying computer science and philosophy. Tells me I use AI too much, kind of thing. So yeah, very generationally aligned with you guys. But for you two who said bad, what is the promise, the biggest promise of AI that makes you maybe hopeful?
One human race, just to put it lightly. I feel like it could be used as a tool to unite everyone, but that's like super far out there,
Is that because everybody has to get together and fight the robot enemies? Is
Maybe.
that why we all get
Maybe.
together? Or
Maybe.
Well, there is a democratizing aspect to
Everyone gets
AI.
access to like a very basic level of education, and that's, I think, really important. And that can be like a big factor to building a one human race and like cutting some sort of divide, but currently it's increasing divide, and that's where policy comes in, and there's like just so much we could talk about there.
Yes, for sure.
I think as far as hope,
Promise.
Promise. I would say like, and I think there needs to be a few mundane things. There need to be mundane things in the human experience in order for it to be fulfilling. But sometimes as a person, you're just tired, and I think it's okay to do this when you're experienced or good at something. Like I use AI specifically in web design tasks that are just so boring. Like if I have to make a database or an Excel sheet of all my projects from scratch, that would take me an hour versus like plug and play in AI and then you kind of get it. But I know how to do that already. And I've gone through the trials and tribulations of that, but I don't know, I see it being more of a promising tool rather than this whole sphere and like center of the human experience. Yeah. Thanks for the question.
Did you have a question?
Yeah, just two quick comments, that's all. First, on the M-dash, thank you. I'm an author and I'm a writer. I've been using the M-dash since my first publication back in 1993, and now I'm having to defend myself constantly that I'm using AI. Makes me want to punch somebody. So thank you. And you guys truly are a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
Really appreciate this. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. That's great. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. Well, I know some of you may have sessions to get to, so we'll wrap the formal portion here, but we will be here all day. Last thing I'll just put up here for any of you who might be interested, the work that we do, we share in multiple formats. So we do have a podcast. In fact, we've recorded several episodes this week here that'll be coming out over the next few months. We still have some more to record. But our most recent episode dropped last week, and it's with Dennis Boyle, who's one of the original founders of IDEO, doing a little retrospective on 40 years of groundbreaking products and innovations. So that's the kind of things we talk about there. Our Substack is the best way to get in touch with this. We do weekly article share outs where we just talk about signals of the future that we're seeing and interested in. It's this kind of conversation in written format, written by humans. And we have a report that we put out every year with our macro trends that we're seeing too. So we'd welcome you to follow us there. Thank you all. Thanks for coming, and thank you guys for being unfiltered with all of us. We'll be doing another one tomorrow too, so feel free to come back. All right. Thanks, everybody.